All right, looks like we're in.
Here we are, we're live. Hello, everybody.
Hello, happy equinox.
Happy equinox. I am here with my sister, mentor, friend, Kelley
Aw.
Mountain.
Aw.
And yeah, we just want to welcome you to tune in with us about sacred sexuality. For you, this might be like, oh, I know this topic. This is no big deal for me. I want to invite you to revisit the foundations and like what is sacred, what is sexuality, and like why are we using this term again and again in our culture, in our marketing, and our mainstream, notions of how we relate to sex and identify with our experience. So I'm hoping today we can just get into some like juicy little nuggets and inspire you to walk away wanting to create a more fulfilling experience or a deeper inquiry of your own relationship to a central erotic part of yourself. So I am Ayah Buonaugurio, and this is Kelley Mountain. I am the founder of Obsidian Womb Wellness and the embodied path of the priestess. I've been advocating, educating, and empowering primarily women, but also men, but women to take charge of their fertility, their reproductive health, and reclaim what is called sexual sovereignty. And I do this through a lot of education and programs here in California. Kelley, do you want to introduce yourself and what magic you bring forth in wisdom?
Sure, thank you so much. So I'm Kelley Mountain of Goddess Modern. I support women through holistic wellness, feminine embodiment, transformational work, and relationships and intimacy. I work mostly with women, also couples and men. I also am a writer, an artist, and event producer.
Mm, I love it. So let's get into the nitty gritty. And I've known Kelley for like, what is it, 7, 8 years now?
I think even longer, actually. Trying to remember the first time we met, but
Feel like through
I think
dance.
yeah, I think it
Yeah.
goes back. I mean, we were in the dance community together starting, I mean, that for me in the Bay Area started in 2007. So I'm not sure at what time exactly we crossed paths then, but it's been a while. We've definitely witnessed each other blossoming on our journeys for quite a while and have been friends. And um, yeah, mentors to each other and sources of inspiration. And we work in a lot of the same realms. So I'm really happy to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me to join you on this very potent topic and perfect with the fall equinox. It's the first day of Libra, which is all about
Balance.
love, yeah, balance, harmony, relationship, sexuality, intimacy. So it's really a beautiful time to have this conversation, at least to crack it open. I think that there's quite a lot to it. So we'll see how far we get today.
Yeah. Yes. And I've enjoyed growing with you over the years and dancing. With that said, crack open. I like that. Like that shell of like what is sacred? Let's start there. Like why are we talking about sacred sexuality today? As if this isn't something that we already know so much about. What is this like theme of the sacred and like what makes sexuality sacred? I think I really want to invite you here if you're listening to the replay or the live call, like what makes sexuality sacred for you? What's a sacred experience?
Yeah, so, well, I guess if we just start with the word sacred, when I looked up the definitions and the root meanings of that word, a lot of what I see is in terms of reverence, devotion, commitment, and connection to a higher power. So when combined with sexuality, it's like, sexuality done in a way that opens a pathway for that quality of connection. But it's so and then you take the term sexuality, and I think that's understood what that is, but how we each explore that, experience that is going to be very unique to us. So some people really don't feel like they have a connection to a higher power. So how would sacred sexuality be experienced for them, you know? So that's, it's, and then other people are very connected to a higher power. And then there's like everything in between. And so, you know, when it comes to sexuality, I think it's important that we all understand that, yes, there's a definition of what that is. And at the same time, it's such a, it's such a colorful, ever-changing, um, I guess, way that we experience it in ourselves.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. And yeah, if I can just add, I think that sex can be a very spiritual experience. And some of you maybe had spiritual experiences during intercourse or foreplay, or just in, you know, erotic aroused states with other people. And so my question for you is like, how do you experience your arousal? How do you experience your sexuality? And I think that there's, you know, a lot of us think of like sacred as being, sacred sex can be a spiritual, luminous state that brings heightened awareness to us and long-lasting beneficial health benefits, right? And in essence, yes, it could be this, but it might be something completely different for you. As for one person, it could be like being in a very safe container with a monogamous partner that they trust and having a deep emotional bond that awakens the erotic, you know, experience of something being sacred because it's like special. It's just between one person and the other. But for another person, a sacred experience of sex could be like on the playa at Burning Man, like meeting somebody that you never met before and like living out this like long, you know, pantheonic, like mythical aspect of yourself that is completely aroused and met on all of these spiritual levels that you've been seeking out your entire life. And it could be a complete stranger, but deeply meaningful to your soul and your existence here on planet Earth, right? So there's like different, again, dualities to what your experience could be that is sacred.
Yeah, that's a beautiful way to say it. And that illustrates again the fact that when we talk about sacred sexuality, there's a whole range, there's a whole spectrum of how that can look. And I think to take it a little bit further, if we're going to look at what's sacred, it could help to look at what's mundane.
Yes.
To help understand more about what's sacred. What's mundane. And I know that when I work with women, couples, and men regarding sexuality, intimacy, and relationships, oftentimes people are seeking for guidance on how to increase the quality of intimacy, the quality of sexual connection. And this seems to be a very hot topic for many, many people out there. And so, you know, this piece around like separating the mundane from the sacred, and then regarding sexual intimacy and connection, like how to create the space for that sacredness and so in a way that separates it from the mundane of the rest of like the everyday daily grind that we live.
Yeah. I thank you. Like, how do we create space for our experience to be sacred, especially if we haven't experienced that or associated it or made time for like our lovemaking ritual to be something that is spiritual and divine to us and coming from a place that is of a higher power. Now, it might be that every time we have sex, it is a higher power in and of itself, but I don't think that's always the case, only because I work with like hundreds of women, coaching them on this topic. There's so many sisters out there and people. I work with a lot of very spiritually identified people who have gone on deep journeys to transform, to know, to access self-development in their lives. And I find that even many of them who are very evolved still come to me and have this same issue of like not being able to access orgasm, not being able to maybe even being in a relationship long term with somebody that they feel safe with, but still not being able to ask for what they want, identify what they want, or maybe still feeling numb down there, feeling numb, shut down, maybe pain during sex, but still kind of fawning the experience or placating to what the other person wants without actually experiencing a super sweet divine connection to themselves through this other person, right? Through the synergy, or what is it that Osho calls it? The bioelectricity of each other's bodies. So I'm really interested in how we can get to a place where we can really take our time to feel what we need to feel on all levels, like sensually awaken to the eroticism of the divine connection that's in the moment, the polarity of like, maybe there's another person in the room with you that you love, that you don't love, but that's creating this electricity for you to enter into what might be a more meaningful experience. I think sacred is saying this is a really truly meaningful experience to you, and therefore it's sacred, it's special, it's a container that doesn't exist anywhere else in the universe, but perhaps activated by your juices and another person.
Literal Jesus. Yeah, so I think it's a good point to also kind of, oftentimes for me, when I am trying to get perspective on something, I want to step back. I want to zoom way out because I want to see a timeline of evolution. I want to see, where was this way, way, way back, and where is it now, and like kind of track. And so to speak to that quickly, so it's an evolutionary development that humans face each other during sex and have the ability to make eye contact and kiss with the mouth. If you look at all mammals, I think even, well, I don't know about like apes and chimpanzees and stuff. I think that they still are turned away from each other, I think. But if you look, it's actually a newer development for a species to have sex facing each other, where the face and the embrace and everything is possible. I think that's really interesting. It's like, I wonder, why would that be? Why would nature create that? And it's about, because when we're connected during lovemaking, during sex, when we're the eye gaze and the mouth and the embrace, it creates even a very intense hormonal response. Oxytocin, serotonin, dopamine, endorphins, and all of these, what they're doing is connecting the couple. And ultimately, the way it serves biology is that the more that happens, the more likely it is for that couple to reproduce and stay together and create a safe, secure life for the child. And that's what all life wants, is to reproduce and thrive. So it's always going to be conspiring to figure out how to do this. Lucky for us. Lucky for us. This is all really pleasurable.
As you're speaking about it, my senses are getting awakened, aroused. I'm like, yes, I remember, like, how good that feels. Eye contact, breath, touching, the senses of just like being, if you know me, I'm a very sensual person. I'm a body worker, I'm a dancer. I love to give and receive touch. And like, for me, I just actually crave more and more of it. It doesn't like, it's not like I just got full, I'm good, I'm done. It's like, oh no, it just can keep going on and on and on, which is kind of the accentuating the whole idea of like being multi-orgasmic. Now, this is another topic, so I'm not going to go there today, of like, orgasm and pleasure, and like we can really ride the wave of all of those, beautiful senses. For some of us, orgasm is a very spiritual experience. And some of us that can't actually access that for whatever blocks or ways that we prevent ourselves, we might feel shame or guilt or just, really critical of ourselves. Well, what I want to speak to, actually, I want to ask some of you on the call right now, just to reflect on any memorable experiences. And please do this throughout today, do this with journaling, but like, I want you to think about memorable experiences that you've had that have been sexual, that have been positive, that have been very memorable and special for you, sacred. And what about them made those juicy moments, like what made it memorable, You know, was it the way that you were approached? Was it the way that you were touched? Is it because there was a strong emotional intimacy? What was it that bonded you to that experience and it being specifically sacred or special for you? I want to ask you, Kelley, like what is a sacred sexual experience for you? Like, how do you identify with that experience in your reality?
Yeah, it's well, thanks for the question. I can say that in my experience, I definitely have been on my own journey, a progression with this aspect of myself and my life and how I explore it and enjoy it. And I'll say that the experiences that felt really sacred to me were when I felt so, the person I was with, I felt so completely seen and accepted and cherished and just like that connection and that acceptance. And then, you know, I've had moments of sexual experience that felt sacred where there was, you know, we were really, I'll say there was like a lot of movement. And then I've had other moments of like, just like sacred depth, where there's like just complete stillness and just like, we're just so linked up and present that we're like almost no movement is needed at all. So again, this is, I guess the point is like, there's no one way that this looks. I've experienced it in like a quickie. I've experienced in a 3-hour lovemaking session. So it really can be so many different things, but ultimately there's a quality of presence. There's a quality of connection. There's a quality of within that space, allowing myself to be fully seen and allowing myself to fully express. So I think that's been a big part of how my journey has evolved over time.
I see you. Thank you. Yeah, that's so important. Just like the quality of presence that we're given by another individual and feeling seen. Yeah, really feeling seen. I know for me, like that presence and being seen really relaxes me and opens me up. And it's in that state of relaxation, or that the nervous system regulates, that like I can allow myself to have a more pleasurable experience. For me, like a sacred sexual experience, and you got me kind of reflecting deeper, like, well, what is it for me? I know for me, when there's no agenda, like when there's a sacred container, yes, we're going to go into love making and we've designated some time and space for this, but that there's like no rush, no hurry, there's no agenda to get to a designated goal, but there's a complete surrender to being in devotion of each other and each other's pleasure and each other's like well-being. Yeah. And for me also in that that container, usually it's with one monogamous individual where we have developed a strong emotional bond. Usually there needs to be emotional content, like that there's a feeling that like I'm emotionally connected to this person, where I feel seen and understood, and these experiences bond us, and therefore we have a certain amount of trust and allyship together, and we can confide on each other and go on a journey and open up deeper realms that maybe haven't been touched yet. And in that, it's like, oh, this is such a special person. This is such a special experience that I'm having, and I only get to share it this one moment in time. Like the most sacred part of me meets the most sacred part of this other being, and we're in this beautiful dance or fusion and union. And so I understand that psychologically and emotionally and in my senses. So through touch, through like this, the really slowing down, and the different levels of touch are really important for me. Could be just like the softest touch to like really firm, you know, full on, like, I'm here, I got you touch. anyways, I could elaborate on that forever. I can feel myself going into like that, the fantasy of it all. But I want to pull it back to the present moment and to see what takeaway. Thank you for being here with us today. And we just wanted to like land this conversation for the first time with our community here, and hope that we can inspire you to look at what it has worked for you, what type of experience you want to have with this sacred gift that you have to generate life or life-giving forces in your body with another being.
I agree with you that also for me, um, the connection is my turn on.
Mm,
I'm not, in my experiences, and again, I think sexually everybody's wired differently. So what's true for one person is not going to be true for me and you, and vice versa. And so, it's really important that we all really explore what this is for ourselves. It's very unique to us. And so, but for me, the connection is the turn on. And I think it's, one area that I tend to really guide my clients in this topic is foreplay begins outside the bedroom,
mm,
especially for women. This is really important. Foreplay begins outside the bedroom. It's all of the little small moments of exchange, of how each other show up for each other, of how they show affection through words, through actions, through gifts, through, you know, so many different ways. And so this, I would say, is like kind of the energetic layer of intimacy. It's part of the energetic layer of intimacy. For me, I think of intimacy as like a flower. There's these outer petals, and then there's the center of the flower. And the outer petals go from energetic to emotional to physical, that is loving and sensual but not sexual, and then to the center, which is sexual. I have a blog that I've written on my website about this. I'll share it with you in a minute. The anatomy of intimacy. And so I think one area where people get challenged is because in our culture we don't have a lot of awareness around relationship to self, first of all, but let alone with another, the importance, the value, the necessity of energetic, emotional, and physical intimacy. How we are in relationship with that to ourselves and how we share that with another. We are in our culture hyper focused on sexual intimacy. So it's like that, just to bypass all the other layers and just go straight for the center. And hey, I mean, not to say that that can't ever work ever, but I will say that especially for women, that will not keep them satisfied for very long. They will be wanting more. And men too. Men want more too. But I think, we're at a time, it's interesting, this topic of sacred sexuality that's so hot now, and that's been so for a while and is just continuing to evolve. It's interesting. I think part of why it's so is that as the equality, the balance between power of men and women progresses, this topic becomes more and more relevant, because as women, we're now giving a space to where our needs, our desires, they mean something, they have value, and we have a right to speak them. We have a right to express what they are. Whereas in the past, sacred sexuality, like, it doesn't really matter. Just the woman's there to do what the man needs to do to take care of himself, and she's his property. And I mean, that's how it had been for in various ways for a long, long time. So I think the fact that it's even a hot topic is actually a good sign that that balance between the masculine and feminine is really taking root. And it's a cool time to be alive, because we're all participating in the rewriting of the story.
Thank you. Yeah, we are rewriting the story. And yeah, it's beautiful to see the revolution and evolution of humans around their consciousness and wanting to bring more awareness and consciousness into how we relate to each other, especially in such vulnerable topics as the bedroom. So with that said, thank you so much. I want to let y'all know how you can stay in touch with me and Kelley. And if you want to hear more about this, we can talk about it for hours. I think we'll do another video and just go into some more deeper, distinct, topics around sacred sexuality and how maybe we can benefit from learning about it more. Yeah. Would you like to share, Kelley, how we can stay in touch with you today?
Sure. Yeah. So my website is goddessmodern.com, and my Instagram is goddess.modern. I also have a Goddess Modern YouTube channel, and I have a Goddess Modern Facebook page. So those are some ways that you can get in touch. My website features a lot of my writing. So if you're interested in learning more about these topics that we're speaking here, also transformational work, feminine embodiment, and holistic wellness, then you might enjoy visiting my website. Otherwise, I have a lot more content that I share. I'm mostly on Instagram, so I have a lot of content that I share there as well. Yeah.
More juicy videos. Thank you, sweetheart. Yeah, and Kelley is in San Rafael?
Yeah. Yeah, Bay Area.
California. And I'm over here in the Santa Cruz Mountains. And if you'd like to get in touch with me, I am obsidianwomb.com. Obsidian is a black crystal. I'm like, do I have any around here? It's a black crystal, volcanic glass that I work with. And you can also on there reach out to me directly here on my Facebook page or Ayah Buonaugurio Instagram, Obsidian Womb Instagram. I'm going to offer to you all today what's called a sexual sovereignty activation session. 30 minutes are free. If you go to my website, you can sign up there. Sexual sovereignty is really about owning your identity, success, pleasure, harmonizing with your female hormones, looking at, intergenerational traumas and things that might hold you back from having the life that you truly desire and the relationship to your sexuality and to all of your prowess that you truly desire here and now. So if you're interested in accessing a free consultation with me, just reach out, and we look forward to seeing you again. Happy equinox. Oh,
may I say one more thing just to close? So one thing I want to just end with is the farther you go down the exploration of what's sacred versus what's mundane, the more you realize that everything is sacred. And what I want to say is there's a quote that says, the way we do one thing is the way we do everything. So I really want to leave that with people to like think about, like, how could that possibly be true for you, and how can you bring, like, if the way you do one thing is the way you do everything, how does that relate to your experience of sacred sexuality? So just to play with that a little bit. Yeah,
I love that. That makes me want to close with I'm going to pick a Rumi card here and see what the quote of the day is. The only lasting beauty is the beauty of the heart. I'm not sure if you can read that or if it comes out.
Yeah, it does come out clear. That's so.
The only lasting beauty is the beauty of the heart. So let's be in our hearts together and continue to have great connections with ourselves and each other. That's what's going to make this planet a better place. So shine your heart, and thank you so much for being with us today. Thank you, Kelley, for jumping on here with me, and
thank you.
May we transition into the fall equinox.
All right, thanks everyone. Thank you so much for having me, Ayah.
You're welcome.